my fellow colonists, my fellow Americans. Today we reach a point at which we all agree something must be done. So, my fellow colonists, it is time for you to stand up, take charge of our future, and demonstrate to the British that above all, we are Americans.
Racking to the Past is a role-playing pedagogy set in a particular time in history. Basically, it's a game in which students are given goals and objectives, and to try to win the game, they have to fulfill both their personal objectives and also sometimes larger political objectives. So it's very different than a normal class. It's competitive. It's something where students have to navigate a world and discover things for themselves as they're going through the game. So it's a very different learning experience.
Here, here, down with King George.
To be able to win, what we had to do was really get involved in the texts and these primary texts and things and use them to our advantage. And from that, we also figured out rules that we could exploit within the game itself to kind of head off some of the advantage that this other side had just because they had a majority. So yeah, and in effect we were able to destabilise their team and convert a few of their players, which was really satisfying. And in the end, we actually turned it around to win, because we denied a few of the people on their side the ability to speak, basically on technicalities and by ruining their character in the eyes of the other players in the game, which was kind of a lot of fun in itself, and kind of devious and fun.
Somehow, our colonies have fallen victim to the rule of tyrants who
It made me understand how even just the fact like property rights and basic things that we take for granted now only 200-300 years ago were such a radical idea, and they were completely, it was ideology. Back then, you know, things were distributed just by pamphlets on the street and, you know, common printing books that were sold on like street corners, and using those documents and engaging with the ideas in a first-person sense by playing a character really gives you just a completely different concept of history than I've ever had in a course before.
Before Kane proposed his unrealistic utopian democracy.
God save the king!
What was fantastic about this course was that it gave us a completely different set of skills than what we normally get in a university course. It was essentially a matter of standing up in front of a class of peers and holding their attention, not once or twice, but on an ongoing basis. Living the documents that we were researching was actually pretty amazing. It was a really helpful way of letting us get back into that mindset of the time. We live incredibly different lives from the people who wrote these documents and the times they were writing about. But living the documents allowed us to really get into our characters' perspective with a lot more ease, and it brought a really interesting atmosphere to the game.
Because it's not an individual game, it's all about the side, whether you're a loyalist or a patriot. You have to always constantly be in contact with everyone on your team to make sure all your views are in sync and what you're saying is going to match up. But then there's always the chance that someone's got a hidden goal and they're just going to keep that to themselves. But even so, you still have to keep in touch. It's really important.
Yeah, definitely. I find that you learn so much more about the sources and about even the people in your class in this kind of a format classroom than you do in other courses, and you're so much more likely to engage with what you're learning rather than just repeating what some historian has said in the past. You're coming up with your own interpretation of the sources.
Social history in general I find to be boring as sin, but it forced me really to engage with the material if I wanted to win, and at the end of the day that's what the game's all about.
Because it's such a different way to approach history, you really feel you become emotionally engaged in the course. As an example, when you win victory, it's kind of people dancing around and punching the air and stuff, which is, it sounds lame, but it really is incredible for a history course to be doing.
It also sort of made you go right back down to the roots of, with all the primary sources, all the roots of where all this came from, what all these people believed and why, like what they were reading at the time, rather than modern day accounts of what happened.
I've just never seen students love learning like they do in this class and be so excited. In most of my classes, as in most classes, you're keeping attendance and hoping they come and, hoping that they're inspired. Here, I have to turn students away. It's just tremendously exciting to learn about some of the biggest, most important ideas in history in that kind of personal way.